Hey, what's up, champions? Welcome to Growth Mode. I'm your host, Donnie Boivin, and I'm the CEO and founder of Success Champions. I've spent over 20 years in the sales game, and in the last almost 4 years now, running and scaling and growing my business. Hanging out with me, as always, is a knucklehead, jackass, and all-around good dude, Comin Soon, who runs his own company, Time on Target, and is an absolutely phenomenal sales automation and guru guy. On this show, man, we talk about all things of growing and scaling your business, and we do it from the perspective of an introvert and an extrovert. So, Kevin, on this episode, what the heck are we talking about?
So today we're going to talk about why your network is crap.
Love it, love it, love it.
So I know a ton of people who spend an exorbitant amount of time building their network. They're at, all the networking events. They're going out and meeting all these people. They're collecting business cards, and they have this huge network, but it actually doesn't produce anything. So I really want to talk about why a huge network doesn't necessarily mean a great network.
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody goes through that. I think as you start figuring out networking, as you start, getting into sales and you're looking for ways to grow your business, I think initially everybody gets to that spot where they're like, I'm going to be everywhere. I'm going to go everywhere. I'm going to know everybody, because you don't know any better. But at some point in your business, you need to grow the fuck up and realize that being the person that's everywhere, everybody knows you're broke. Everybody knows that you're not doing any business because you got too much time on your hands to actually be everywhere. You never want to be known as the networker. You want to be known as the person to go to because you can introduce everybody to the right people. But to be known as a networker gets you into a lot of trouble, because that just means you're broke because you're networking with all the wrong people. Do you agree?
Yeah. Yes, I think you want to be known as a good networker, not as the networker or a networker. I think part of the problem also is that people don't understand that the real networking happens after that initial meeting. Just because you've gotten the business card or you've shook hands at an event doesn't mean they're necessarily in your network or that anything's going to come from it. It's everything that happens after that is what actually causes your network to get stronger and to be successful.
Yeah, no, I love that. And everybody should know that the business happens in the coffee meetings, the virtual coffees, the get-togethers, all of that type of stuff. But a lot of people are so gun shy about doing the things they need to do even at those events to get to a coffee, virtual coffee, whatever else, because they're just out socializing and convincing themselves that they're actually doing some sort of business development. They're going to enough events to see the same people so they can feel okay about going to the events. It's a lot easier when you can look across the room and go, oh, hey, Kevin, good to see you again. And then you spend the next freaking 2 hours talking to that one person.
Yep.
When you're actively supposed to be out, meeting and talking to other people. But that's your comfort zone, as far as really getting to know people. Go ahead.
That whole being visible thing is important, but it's not being, I don't think it's necessary that you need to be visible to everyone. You need to be visible to your key networking partners.
Yeah.
And you need to have that, like we tell our members in the chapters, if you aren't at your meeting, they're going to forget about you. You have to stay top of mind with your network and keep working that network for it to become successful.
Well, and I think it's you have to be selective as well as where you're networking, where you're going. I mean, if you're seeing the same 10, 15 people in every room you're going towards, then you're hanging out with broke-minded people. Because those same 15 people are broke. They're not growing their business, but they're showing up in all the rooms together. You need to go find yourself in new rooms with people that are actively expanding their network. The Chamber of Commerce, the Rotaries, the BNIs, all those have their place in this world. But if you're going to literally find yourself in places where badasses understand they should be opening doors for each other, then you've got to go to Success Champions Networking. You've got to go sit on boards. You've got to go, be a part of the community, work with nonprofits. I mean, you've got to get out of the box and quit doing just the traditional thing. And you've got to get very selective with who you put in that inner circle, because most people's network sucks because it's filled full of a bunch of weak-minded people that don't know how to go sell. So they're only showing up at these events because that's their only way of getting new business. And if that's their only way of getting new business, they're broke. Because you can't generate enough business fast enough by relying 100% just on all the networking stuff. You got to get out of the box and think a little bit differently.
Well, 2 points that just popped into my head. One is you got to have that good mix of organizations and networking events. Yep. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. You can't be, I'm in BNI, I'm in Success Champions Networking, and I'm good. That's only networking I need. No, that's not. You need to be in multiple places, just like you said. The other point that popped into my head is that networking takes time. Yes. You meet that person, and you're like, I think they're going to be an awesome referral partner. I have a ton of business I can pass them. I know they can pass me business. Well, that's not going to happen overnight. You have to invest in that relationship for it to grow. Yep. It's like dating. You did not get engaged to your wife the first night you met her.
Oh, hell no. We hated each other. But that, I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, it comes down to that at the end of the day, you have got to work networking just like you're running a business, and nurture that network. And you also got to clean house. I mean, because there's people that you don't need in your network. And if they're not people of value, which sometimes takes a little while for it to rear their head, but if they're not people of value, people that won't open doors, people that are broke-minded and broke, then it's time to move on to something else and better people. I'll keep going back to, I visited one of my old networking groups that I hadn't been to in 5 or 6 years. And I went in there just to say hi, see how everybody was going. And I realized quickly that I had no business being in that room. Love all those people, but man, they're in the same spot they were 5 or 6 years ago, saying the same shit they said 5 or 6 years ago. And look, I mean, when you're looking at your network, you got to find people that are evolving, people that are leveling up. And, that's not the people that are showing up absolutely everywhere. And the people that, are spending more time at the bar versus getting to know people. Because I know me, dude, when I first got into networking, you walk in a room, you head straight to the bar, order cocktails, you get some liquid courage, and then you start, talking to just enough people until you find the party people. And then once you find the party people, now it turns into an after hours, and you're not getting home till 11 or 12 at night, and no business happened. I was definitely that guy.
Well, you were the stereotypical salesperson networker.
Right.
CEOs have breakfast.
Yes.
Managers have lunch, and salespeople have drinks. So, and that's how it tends to work. So, all right. So we have about 5 minutes left in this episode. Let's talk about how you actually develop your network. So if we have listeners who are sitting there saying, wow, all right, they're talking about me. I go to every event. I have this huge Rolodex of people that I'm not getting anything out of. How do they fix it?
First and foremost, trim the fat. And instead of being everybody to everybody, and first, the surefire way to know that you're doing too much and not of the right things is when somebody looks at you and says, dude, I see you everywhere. Right? So that's a good indicator you're showing up in the wrong places. So what you absolutely have to start doing is going, okay, who is actively outside of the events and things I'm going to talking about different rooms and places that I haven't been to? And then start getting close to those people, buy them lunch, take them out to coffee, and start getting invited into, the more private rooms that a limited number of people will get into. For me to know if a room is worth my time is if I walk in and there's multi-level marketing, direct marketing, pyramid companies, whatever the fuck you want to call them, that room's not worth my time 99% of the time, because you're filled full of people that have not evolved enough to grow a legitimate business. And I know I'm going to catch hell for that one. It'll be fine. But the idea is, it goes back to when I realized that my sales game had to go bigger than where I currently was. I had to go and find myself in rooms with people who could say yes. And I think when you evaluate a room, when you evaluate what you're doing, if you're in rooms where people can't say yes, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. So find the rooms where people can say yes. Find the people that can get you into those rooms, and start running networking like an actual business, and not as an excuse to make me feel okay because I suck at sales. Yeah, would you agree?
I completely agree. You got to start getting in the right rooms so you're filling your network with the right people. But then you got to take time to actually develop that relationship, and you need to have deeper conversations than the standard let's go grab coffee and chat that happens a lot of times with networking. You need to get to the point where you're actually discussing and strategizing on how you open doors for each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's simply like looking at somebody going, hey, you know what? We'll go have coffee. I'm totally down to do that, but let's do this before we do that. Why don't you jump on my LinkedIn? I'll jump on yours, and we'll go through and make a list of people we'd like to introduce each other to. If you're up for that, I'm totally into doing that coffee. If you're not, then let's have the conversation now that we'd have there.
Yep.
Yo.
Yeah. So I think also for me, I do when I do the virtual coffees, and if you want to learn how to do a really great virtual coffee, you can listen to episode 16. I'm really focused on the long-term ability for each of us to keep referring. So it's not necessarily just, all right, so who can we refer each other today, but how do we promote each other? How do we get into each other's sales process so that we're a natural conversation that we're having with our clients? And how do we do that? Because it's awesome if, we can get together once a month and you and I sit down and say, all right, so here's who we're going to introduce each other to. But if we can get to the point where we're talking about each other with our clients naturally, that becomes a long-term self-fulfilling, partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just thinking through, of my old networking, how many people I still talk to, and it's a very small number. And once again, nothing against people that I used to do all the networking with, but very few of them, are hitting that second and third gear. And I get excited when some of these guys and gals that I've kept close to me reach out, because it's fun to see what they're doing with their lives, and they're evolving, and they're buying companies, and they're doing more and more stuff. And I think to get to that level of conversation with people to where you're proactively talking about clients and who you're going after, you have to get around the people that are as aggressively going after life as you are. And I think that's a huge indicator, because if they legitimately have their own book of business, there should be at some point where you guys have bonded so well, you're like, hey, I know you're talking to XYZ company, or looking at each other and going, dude, here's the 3 new clients I closed last week. Do you need to meet any of these? And I think a lot of it comes down to your own mental mindset, that if you're not willing to introduce your best clients to the people you're networking with, it's the wrong people to network with.
Yep.
Because you don't respect them, you don't trust them, you don't whatever. And I think that's a good way to evaluate what you're doing, is to look around that room and go, could I introduce them to my number one client? And if you don't have a number one client, that's a whole nother episode for another day. But really, it comes down to, you've got to level up your own game so that you can get yourself into the right rooms, the right conversations, the right people, and evolve into that. So to summarize kind of everything we walk through, one, it comes down to, you've got to be the badass. Right? First and foremost, you've got to get to that level where you're creating your own environment and not 100% reliant on networking as your only form of new business development. Second, you've got to evaluate the rooms you're in and really decide, is this room worth my time? Are there people here that I'd be willing to make introductions to my clientele? Third, you've got to evaluate your inner circle of people. Are these people that are proactively growing their business, are they going as big as I am? So, as they go after business, they'll make introductions for me and I'll make introductions for them. And I think if you really narrow it down to those 3 badass things, you're going to find yourself in some amazing spots and proactively be able to grow some badass business. So as always, guys, if you got any value out of this, do us a favor and subscribe to the show, and teach somebody else how to subscribe or follow the show. It means absolutely everything to us. We'll catch you next time. See ya.